Bontell with Insurasales, and I'm here with Commissioner Chaney from the great state of Mississippi. And Commissioner, it is an absolute joy to talk to you, especially on camera. Today, we listened to Commissioner Chaney and a host of other insurance commissioners here at the Hill Country Classic in Austin, Texas, and I got to tell you, it was one of the most informational, fun, and frankly, educational times I've had. We had a chance to talk one-on-one at a table. Commissioner and I had a blast. Tell us, and all the folks here that are going to listen, why is this so important for insurance commissioners to come together with people in the industry here at the Hill Country Class?
Well, the industry people need to understand that we're regulators. We're not gods and we're not anything like that. We're just as human as anybody else. And our job is to be good regulators, make sure the companies are solvent, and we take care of consumers in our country and in our states and across the country. So, I think that a lot of companies and agents think that we're unapproachable, and the idea that we want to get across that we are approachable, that we're here to serve the public, to serve the industry, and to serve the consumers of our country. You notice I'm saying country, not just my state. So what I do in Mississippi can affect people in Oregon and New York State too. Same thing with them affecting us in our state. So we all have a common goal, and that's to leave the world a little better than we found it without being too socialist.
Well,
I already brought politics into this. I don't know why I did.
Wait a minute. But I will tell you that Commissioner Chaney today had a lot of people come to me afterwards, Commissioner, today. Boy, he's a hoot. He's fun to listen to, he's educational, he's fun, he makes you think, and at the same time, he's warm and congenial and fun to be with. And I said, you sure he's an insurance commissioner, right? And it just goes to your point. It's like, you're just real people too.
We're real people. You know, we care about the public. And I think I told you earlier that if you're an agent or you're in our business, you kind of have a mission heart to leave the world better. And it's a lot about agents. That's what they are. They have a mission heart. They take care of their clients. And of course you get some bad apples every once in a while, but very few. Agents are the lifeblood of what we do. And our goal is to make sure they're trained to take care of the consumers that they represent within their state and within the country. So it's a pretty big deal for us. And of course, you've got an aging population. So we're talking about Medicare and Medicaid. And Medicaid's not something that y'all administer, but it's something that affects the people that get on the Medicare when they turn 65. So our goal is to make certain that we regulate, and we're good regulators. The goal is to leave the world a little better, but the problems we have as regulators, Medicare is really a federal program. And most of us have paid taxes since 1965 at 2.9% of our salaries, halfway for the employee, halfway for the employer. And we don't want to see that trust fund taken away because it's a security. It's kind of like an RA for somebody that saves money. This is a kind of an RA for health care when you get over 65. Make sense to you, Steve?
It does. And, when you think of what you were talking about today, you're talking about the great state of Mississippi and all the things that you've done in that state. It's not just been on the insurance regulation side. Tell some of the folks a little bit about your background, because it's really unique and it's actually quite fun to listen to. So tell us a little bit about.
So I spent 15 years in the legislature. I spent 2 terms in the House, 2 terms in the Senate. Thought I would retire, and my good friend George Dale was commissioner, the longest serving commissioner in the country. And he had an opponent, and we couldn't get him to switch parties, political parties, and he knew he was going to get beat. So I got in case he lost, and long story is he lost, and I ended up being insurance commissioner. So it's not a job that I used to think I would want. I used to tell George, that's the worst job in the world. People fuss at you. You can't make anybody happy. One day the people that like you, the next day they don't like you. Same thing for a lot of us, politicians, you might say. So the goal is to try to leave the world a little better, regulate an industry that's fair to the consumers of your country and your state, and to take care of those people that have paid their hard-earned money for premiums.
One of the things that you were saying to me earlier is it's not a political thing. It's not really Republican,
it's not.
Democrat.
You're right.
Maybe expound on that a little bit.
Well, we ought to be nonpartisan in what we do. Sometimes we're faced to make a decision, and that decision may not be what we personally think is the right decision, but you got to follow the law. And in today's climate, we got a lot of people that think they're entitled to things. They want you to make decisions that are political. Our job is not to polarize the country, it's to try to bring consumers together with the companies and not polarize the fact that we're all politicians to some degree. So there are 11 elected commissioners in the United States. People often ask me, would you rather be elected or appointed? And I vacillate sometimes, but all in all, I'd rather be elected, and there's a reason for that. I think elected commissioners are a lot closer to the people they represent, and they have a longer service period of time or tenure in office. The average lifespan of an appointed commissioner is about 24 to 25 months. So why is that? Most people that are appointed for one reason: ego, and to try to get it on their resume so they can get on a board of a company. And we tell them that's not what this is about. It's about trying to leave the world better. I know a lot of people aren't going to like what I'm saying, but it's a fact. It's just,
well, let me tell you,
it's the way it is.
You had everybody in the room today going, I would say that Commissioner Chaney's figured this thing out. He's got the right formula. You've been serving, I mean, really, the citizens of the state of Mississippi for a long time.
Well, I've been in politics for about 30 years, and it was not something I ever intended to do. And I got into it in my really late 40s as a fourth career, you might say, third career. And I thought I would retire young, but that didn't happen. And it's something I enjoy doing. I don't have to work, but I enjoy doing what I do. And I think I make a difference for a lot of people.
Sometimes, people, it seems like the media and other outlets, they make things political, right? And
they do.
And you forget that there's a servant behind that leadership, right? So when you say, well, you are leading the insurance department, but I'm also serving, and I've been serving the great state for, like you said, 30 plus years in a lot of different roles. So you've always wanted to help other people, and that really came out today, and how you've helped the insurance community over all these years, not just in Mississippi, but when you come in and talk to people like myself and other folks within this group who've been in the industry a long time, it inspires us because it shows that there is a true partnership, there is true communication between regulators, carriers, companies, and everybody that actually is engaged in the business of insurance.
Well, the goal for every commissioner in this country should be that we are taking care of the consumers. And if you look at statutory law in every state, it says you make certain that companies are solvent enough to pay a claim, one. And number two, you'll take care of consumers. If in doubt, who you take care of? You take care of the consumer.
That's right.
And you don't bash the companies, and you're not there to defend them. You're there to make certain that they are solvent. Now, what we get into in today's climate, we get drawn into making legislative decisions at a regulatory level, and I'm not sure that's what we're called to do. So I don't want to be on camera talking too much about that issue, but it's a heck of an issue for those of us that are in a position to be regulators. We're not called to be the gatekeeper of what a doctor or a healthcare provider should be paid, and there's some states that are now saying the insurance commissioner should determine that. That's not the case. If you're a patient over here, and over here you're the healthcare provider, be it a hospital or a doctor, you can charge whatever you want to over here, and if the patient has the money and wants to live or get well, they would have to pay it. So in between there, we have insurance companies and something called networks, and they're the only thing that keeps healthcare costs in check, because our federal government has never done one thing to try to check the cost of healthcare. They talk a good game, but they have done nothing. So the only thing that actually keeps healthcare costs in check are insurance networks. Now, you do have the master charge list that keeps Medicare costs in check, and hospitals have to take Medicare and Medicaid if they're going to survive or get federal money. So how do they make up the difference of what they want to do? They charge it to the private sector. And that's what we have to fight as regulators. And that you get people coming and going in and out of network. And it presents a host of problems for us. So 15 years ago, a decade and a half ago, I may have spent 1 to 2% of my time on healthcare issues. Today I spend about 60% of my time on healthcare issues. And that requires almost that you really have to read a lot. You've got to depend upon people that read and know the law. It's almost kind of like getting another college degree. I used to kid with my children, and they're all fairly old, that I probably read more in a week than I read in 4 years of college, or 6 years of college. So it's about doing what you're talking about and being certain that you're protecting the consumer of the states.
So it's really protecting the consumers of the state, and really one of that ways is making sure that insurance company is solvent, they've got the money to pay claims, and they do what they're supposed to.
Yeah, and we deal with a lot of folks, and Steve, I will tell you this, I don't find many crooks in our business, but occasionally you'll run into one, but there are very, very few people, and our job is to prevent those people from abusing the process, and occasionally you'll run into them. And there's some bad characters out there. It doesn't matter how good you are, there's some bad characters out there. You just don't have them in our industry, though.
Yeah, you're right. You unfortunately hear about them, but I would say that all the people that I've seen in my almost 28 years doing this, most people care deeply about their clients.
They really do.
They care about the companies. They care about the regulators, the states. They want to do it right. They're all different, but they're at the same time they're all really trying to do what's right.
In my state, we issue, and this is hard to believe, in a small state, we issue or are responsible for issuing over 600,000 licenses a year. That doesn't mean we have that many agents. I'm talking about companies to do business, certificates of authority, and all the other issues that you got to have. And we depend upon other states, and like other states depend upon us to do background checks on folks. So occasionally you may miss one, but by and large, the industry is pretty dead gum good. And the problem you run into when you have claims is that somebody says, well, I think I'm due that. I've been paying premiums for 20 years and I've never had a claim. But people think they're entitled to what they want. And it's like health insurance, that some people will say, well, I don't like that drug, I want the more expensive drug. And sometimes that's not what this is about. And you have to understand what an insurance company can afford to pay out. And that's called a formulary. It gets complicated. And so we have to be almost pharmacologists to some degree. We got to be experts in actuarial science. We got to understand what the consumer is looking at and be certain that that product that's sold by an agent is represented to be fair to the consumer.
Yeah.
Make sense to you?
It does. It's a lot of work too. That's it. A lot of work. Look, speaking of a lot of work, there's a lot of work that goes into putting on the Hill Country Classic every year. And I know you make that you put that on your calendar every year that you want to be here and you want to be representing your state and you want to help the industry. Help everybody who's going to watch this. And a final question here, Commissioner, why you make it so important and an important part of your schedule every year to be here, why you think everybody should be here?
Well, I think that what Billy Hill has done, Billy and Karen have put their life into trying to make the world a little better. The Cystic Fibrosis Foundation is something I care a lot about. If you've ever had a friend or been around somebody that had cystic fibrosis, it's a devastating disease if you do not have the right medications. So we're looking for a cure, just like you do with cancer and other issues. But Billy and Karen have put their heart into it. And I think that's what we're about. We're about trying to find cures for diseases that make us dependent upon others, and we can't live a quality life. And Billy and Karen have tried to improve that, especially for children. If you have cystic fibrosis, one of the simple things that people need to understand that if you ever kiss a baby and they taste salty, you may have a problem, because cystic fibrosis is a one gene default that affects your body's ability to process salt in your cells. And it's deliberate. It's horrible when you can't get the mucus out of your lungs, and you basically you'll die from either suffocation or lack of oxygen or from some type of infection. So Billy Hill has made a difference, and our job as commissioners is to come here and support the industry, especially the health care side of it, to make certain that we try to find a cure for cystic fibrosis.
Well, You know, you can't say that really any better than what you did, Commissioner Chaney. If you're thinking about making the trip down or over or up or down to Austin, I would encourage everybody in this industry, if you're a carrier watching this or you know somebody who's in a regulator who's thinking about joining, come on down next year, be a part of this. It's something special. You get to meet Commissioner Chaney and all of the commissioners that are here. You get to find out not only are they wonderful people, but they're a credit to our industry, and they've given back in so many different ways and for the greatest of causes. So, Commissioner, it was so great talking to you both individually and privately today. You've been a real joy and a real honor, frankly, for me to speak with you. And then tonight, sharing with everybody here a little bit about how wonderful this is. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Steve.
Right? Yes, sir.
Thank y'all for what you do.
Yep.